Okay. 32 Gilson Road, 18 Johnson Avenue, site plan, special permit, continued from the January 27th public hearing. Applicant. Carol.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. My name is Christopher and Carol. I'm an attorney in Quincy, and I represent the applicant Murphy's. I've just come on board with the project. However, tonight we brought in a development team of Tim Johnson, our architect, and we brought in our engineer tonight to speak with you on the project. Just a recap, the project consists of two structures. One is very blighted, that the applicant requests, if their request is approved, they will take down the two structures. Of course, when they do that, they'll put in adequate rodent control abatement program in place. The project consists of 24 units, and from what I have learned from researching the original application, there was concerns about parking issues. The applicant has gone back, redesigned the project so that we have now 38 parking spaces internally, with 4 parking spaces as a transient space out in the open area. In addition, trash containment will be within the facility. There was also a request for a traffic study, which our architect will address tonight and our engineer will address tonight. And the traffic study, as a recap, has said there will be de minimis effect of the project. In part, I'd like to note that because it's very close to the T, it is most likely that many of the residents of the building will probably take the T, won't use their car. In fact, the applicant has also designed the parking plan for the building that there'll be flows out of the 2 egresses in the garage. Again, we'll make the presentation and we'll do a recap there. We'll start off with our architect.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tim Johnson, the project architect. This project came before the board previously in September of 2015. At that point, it was a 4-story, 24-unit building with 24 parking spaces, 21 garage, 3 outside. So it gave us a parking ratio of 1 dwelling unit, 1 parking space. Since then, we listened to the community, the board members, and we've come back with a new scheme, which is again, 24-unit building. However, it's a 5-story building with 38 garage parking spaces and not 4 but 3 exterior, for a total of 41 parking spaces, which gives us a parking ratio of 1.7, much over the required 1.5. So, yeah, I don't know if everyone knows where this site is. This is an unusual site. It's a rectangular site, and it's accessed, I showed from our civil engineers drawing, a little bit easier. It's accessed from 2 corners, one from Gilson, which is off of Greenleaf, which goes to Hancock. The other is off of Johnson, which goes directly to Hancock. There's also an 11-foot grade change between Gilson and Johnson, which allows us to actually bury one of the garages, because now, instead of a 1-story garage, we have a 2-story garage. We have site plan here from Gilson Road. We have 21 parking spaces off Gilson with an area for trash. And then when we go off Johnson, Johnson is here. We have 17 parking spaces, also an area for trash and recycling. These are going to be 2-bedroom, 2-bath units, approximately 1,100 square feet. There will be an elevator servicing all floors, so all units are handicap adaptable. We will have, as I mentioned, trash and recycling for the Gilson side, and we also have trash and recycling for the Johnson side. Per capita, trash generation in the U.S. is about 4.4 pounds. That's loose, not compacted per person. So we estimate about 3.6 cubic yards of trash loose per week, which is about 2 cubic yard dumpsters, which will be rolled on, which will be on wheels. Also, we'll have 1 trash recycling bin per unit, and that will be picked up bi-monthly. Step back, In the city of Quincy, if you're more than 8 units, you have to privately contract for trash removal. This will be privately contracted. So we'll have in the lower driveway, we'll have 12 recycling bins, and we'll have 1 2 cubic yard trash container on wheels. On the Johnson side, we will also have 12 recycling bins and 2 cubic yard dumpster on wheels. We do have a landscape plan, which I can go over if anyone's interested. I want to make this brief. Of course, this building will adhere to the stretch energy code. That's 20% more energy efficient than current code. We also are adhering to the dark sky initiative, which means all lighting will be shielded and downlighted. There'll be no lighting, no light pollution to abutting properties. And lastly, this is a east-west access, so the roof is conducive to future solar panels. And our exterior materials will be fiber cement siding, fiberglass windows and door frames, of course, Energy Star windows. We have also a brick veneer on the Gilson side, and we have standing metal seam roofing at the entry, the vertical entry element on both sides. This is Gilson. This is Johnson elevation, our landscape plan. I can quickly go over briefly the traffic study by Jack Gilson Associates. Through the transportation engineer's trip generation report, that there will be 15 trips during the weekday evening period hour with 10 inbound trips and 5 outbound trips. During a normal weekday, there will be approximately 160 trips with approximately 80 inbound and 80 outbound. The projected traffic impact on the neighborhood streets due to this project will be de minimis, which means minimal, especially after discounting the trips previously generated by the 2 multifamily homes that exist at the site. And with that, I will give it over to the civil engineer, Mike Joyce.
Hello, Michael Joyce, Joyce Consulting Group. Since the last rendition of this plan, it hasn't changed all that much. A lot of it has been interior and then parking access, but from a stormwater design standpoint, the same standard design is the rooftop runoff will be collected via roof leaders, directed to stormwater infiltration chambers. The runoff in the parking lot will be directed to a storm scepter, which will provide your TSS removal and oil separation. They both go into the infiltration system, which will recharge groundwater. The stormwater will outlet to an outlet control structure, which ties into the existing City of Quincy drainage within Gilson Road. In order to accommodate the new driveway coming off of Johnson Avenue, what we're proposing is a pervious pavement to access the garage area, and below that pervious pavement is essentially a 24-inch deep storage area consisting of a filter stone, a pea stone for about 3 inches, then crushed stone for the remainder. And that provides your stormwater treatment and recharge. And that has enough storage capacity such that it won't overflow in a 100-year storm. It'll all be stored within that reservoir. Outside of that, the things that have changed since the last time, we've added some more traffic controls. Deb Finnegan from the traffic department had asked us to call out new tactile or ADA compliant pedestrian ramps at Greenleaf with a new stop sign and a new stop line. Those aren't shown on this plan, but they're shown on the updated plan. She's also asked to add a stop sign at Linden Court with a stop line, which we've provided. Then that's about the extent of it. A couple additional things added to the stormwater management plan, but that's it from this last one.
Any questions from the board members? Mr. Joyce?
Just have a couple of clarification questions. So in terms of accessing the parking lots, so there's the two parking lots and
Correct.
access one via Johnson and one via
Exactly, yeah, so Johnson Ave is roughly 10, 11 feet higher than Gilson Road, so the access for the, called the basement level garage is through this parking lot here, and it's a down and back. So that's the access to the Gilson Road garage will be here. Johnson Ave, you come in and you access from Johnson Ave, it's the first level garage above, and that has, I believe it's 17 spaces above and 21 below. So and the reason for the loss above is just coming in at the angle rather than dead center where you are at the first one.
So I assume that the residents will have assigned lots, so that if they go to Johnson and don't find a space, they don't have to go back.
Yeah, I believe that's...
They'll be assigned.
Right.
It's going to be, the applicant's going to retain it, manage it, they're going to assign it in such a way that the flows will be out by floors, they won't be
Okay.
hit at the same time.
My second question is, there's a business, and I'm forgetting what it is, on the northeast corner of Hancock and Johnson. Sullivan Tire. And there's a parking lot, I think, behind that, north of that.
Yeah, it's the back of the comms and then where the Woodrow School is.
Okay, yes.
Kind of in this area here.
Not Sullivan Tire.
Facing
Oh, not Sullivan, the other one, yeah.
Construct in the large
So there's
municipal
the
building.
proposed building, there's a residential building here, and then the
It's
parking
the
lot.
municipal building,
No,
yeah.
Yeah,
basic
okay, yeah.
human services.
Oh, okay,
Oh, the health,
Health
sector.
okay, thank you.
and school.
And the
So-
school also.
And then the school is beyond that, right? My question really simply, it looks like you could go through that parking lot to access this building, is that a concern?
Well, they
We already do
they
that.
do it already, we
yeah.
live right, I'm right, where they're proposing.
And you'll be afforded an opportunity to
Alright,
express
okay.
the question.
Yeah, and there's, as far as I know, as the woman stated, there's nothing to prevent you from coming basically from Hancock to Gilson Road, going to this parking lot.
Thank you.
Go ahead, nothing later.
So on the parking, how many, you guys have enough parking spaces by right, is that correct? You're not asking for a parking waiver for spaces, you're asking for a parking waiver tonight for the width of your parking spaces. Is that accurate?
That's accurate. Some of the parking spaces are 8.5 feet versus 9.
So not all of them, some of them. How
Some of
many
them.
are? Some.
There's for column spacing in the garage. Yeah, 1.5 is the requirement here, we're at 1.7. So for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. 4 out of the 38.
And then there are all, in the total are 3 spaces at the end of Gilson that will also be assigned, but they'll just be outside.
Those will be outside and, no, they won't be
They're not
assigned.
a site visitors.
They're temporary. So in the wintertime, that becomes a major snow area, right down Gilson.
So they're not part of the count then?
No. No, there are 38 total spaces, which is 1.6. If we add the 3, it's 1.7.
Mr. Chairman. Could you just repeat the number of projected trips to and from again?
160.
160 with 80 and 81.
Right.
And that's considered de minimis in traffic engineering?
According to Jack Gillen Associates, yes. I'm not the traffic engineer. He's ill tonight. But I think you have a copy of the report.
Yeah.
160 trips, approximately 80 inbound and 80 outbound. And through his graphs and calculations, he projects the traffic impact on the neighborhood streets due to this project to be minimal.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
there were just a couple of issues if I could ask a couple of questions there. Tim, you mentioned the trash receptacles on the Johnson level parking.
Yes.
Where will the trash be kept on that? I didn't see it on the plan that I have.
This area. Right now it's labeled storage, but we just allocated a space up there.
Okay, so you'll have it storage here.
Right, so this area here, so it'll only be 12 rolling bins for recycling. And
Will it
then
be
one,
taken down the elevator to get to the, will it be taken down the elevator?
well, this will be privately contracted, so they could come down Johnson to pick up on this end and Gilson on the other.
Okay, the other item that we noticed was the width of the garage doors are 12 feet. Deb Finnegan had mentioned that you might need to enlarge those a little bit. Can you get them to 14 feet?
We can get them to 14 feet, of course. Yes.
It just would make the maneuverability a little bit easier, she felt, so. I think that was the only two things currently that I have questions on. The other item, of course, is the...
One of the questions that came up from the fire department, we have the deputy chief here. I'd like to ask him, the maneuver, Deputy Chief Jackson, the maneuverability of a ladder to...
Yeah, I was actually just having a discussion with the Murphy brothers back here, and I think that from the fire department side of things, we're going to be able to make things work. We had two primary issues. One was access to the site with the ladder trucks, and one was water supply. And in talking to them, I think that we're going to be able to find ways around both of them. So, yeah, from the fire department side of things, we're all set.
Can you explain that to me, though?
Yeah, I believe, in talking to these guys, if I understand correctly, Gilson Road is coming down this way, Linden Court comes out this way, so we'd be able to get a ladder truck to the front of the building, and then to leave to back down Linden Court, come out. As far as water supply, they have to have a hydrant within 100 feet of the fire department connection. In talking to them right now, they've agreed to put a fire department connection on the front of the building here, so we'd have a hydrant in the front within 25 feet of the fire department connection. They've agreed to put one on the back as well, so we could tie in if we wanted a hydrant off of Hancock Street, we could use that as well. So we have both sides of the building covered, and access to the site seems like it's doable.
Thank you.
Sure.
Is there a question? I have a question. No? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. As you probably know, Quincy is becoming quite friendly. I don't recall whether I saw storage space for bicycles, or I may have overlooked it.
Yes, a bike storage space would be along the exterior walls at the end of the car parking. So we have 20-foot deep parking spaces. We have a 24-foot wide travel lane, and then we have approximately 4.5 feet for bike storage along this wall and this wall on both floors.
Thank you.
Okay, before I open up to the public, I want Councilor Forrest to see it.
So I prefer to allow my residents to speak first, please.
All right. Okay, so we'll now open it up to the public for comment. Just ask you to identify who you are.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Andrew Sutton. I'm an attorney at Reamer & Bronstein, 3 Center Plaza, Boston, Massachusetts. I represent iFred DeCenzo LLC, who's the owner of the Sullivan Tire, which is an abutter to the project. And I think, if you remember last time, my client voiced some concerns about parking in the area. I'm here before you tonight owing to some very unique circumstances, which I don't think you'll experience again. You have a land developer, a abutter, who has actually hired a land use attorney whose job it is to typically promote projects like this, to oppose this project. And the second circumstance why I'm here tonight is frankly because I'm actually really confused. And I'm confused because I don't really understand why we're even still talking about this project. And I've brought some boards, and I kind of like to walk you through my confusion, since my client actually hired me to do a peer review of this. Now, you have a beautiful peer review in the planning file from Gale. They did an awesome job, and they raised a lot of the issues that I'm going to bring up tonight. So that Gale peer review came up in December, and for the life of me, I don't really understand how we can approve a site plan for a project with some problematic private issues with respect to private easement rights in the form of rights in Johnson Avenue belonging to the owner of Lot C. Or, I'm sorry, Lot C. From the subdivision of the original parcel number 2 in 1956, which created the lots that the developers purchased, and also with respect to private rights in Johnson Avenue that are owned by the BCC, which actually gets you from Hancock Avenue to Johnson Avenue. And then furthermore, the question of where exactly Johnson Avenue goes, because it's not really correctly identified here, and that's an issue that Gail brought up. And those are private rights that really have nothing to do with the public process here. So even if they were to get all of the relief they requested, the zoning relief, site plan review, special permits, excavation permits, demolition permits, everything, that's still an issue that's going to impact the financeability of the project and might never make it happen. Because you might have a person here who has rights in the footprint of Johnson Avenue that were created in 1956 that they're trying to build on, which Gail identified. Now, one of the main issues that I'm concerned about and that I don't understand, I'm going to pull out my board here to kind of help me with this, is the issue with the zoning here. And, you know, we've got an application that discusses the zoning here as multifamily use being permitted in the Business C district in Quincy. So this property is a little bit weird, and I guess it won't fit, but property's a little bit weird. It's probably a little bit weird when we're talking about zoning. Just to acclimate you, this is my client's site here, outlined in white. And this is the property here. I'm going to refer to this as Lot A because that's what it was called in the subdivision, 32 Gilson Road. Lot B is 18 Johnson Avenue, and Lot C is 14 Johnson Avenue. Then you have the BCC here, Gilson Road, Linden Court. Now, the residential A zoning district in Quincy actually comprises, I'm going to say, I measured it out to about 6,000 square feet of the 8,000 square feet that Lot A occupies. So the primary use of Lot A is residential A, and that's single family. That's your highest, most protected use in Quincy. And then you have Business C over here. In Business C, you have multifamily dwellings, which are permitted as a conditional use, not an as-of-right use. Because if you look at the dimensional table in your zoning bylaw, Note 2 basically says you can build multifamily dwellings in Business C if you have 42,000 square feet, if you have 2,500 square feet per unit, if you have 100 yards, 100 feet of frontage, if you have XYZ open space. You know, there's a set of criteria which are specifically set forth to enable that use. In absence of having a lot which meets that criteria, that use is not permitted. So right now we're looking at a project for a use that's not permitted in the residential A, and it's not permitted in the residential B. And essentially seeking relief for the criteria that would permit it in the Business C district is effectively a dimensional variance, which is sort of like an end around to a use variance. Now that's not a big deal in Quincy because you're allowed to give use variances. But by saying that you don't need 42,000 square feet or you don't need 2,500 square feet, what you're really saying is we're going to allow a use that the zoning bylaw really doesn't provide for this type of property in this district. So that's kind of the first reason I'm confused. Now I know that in some municipalities where you have a zoning boundary that bifurcates property, there is a provision in the zoning bylaw that might explicitly provide that if your property is partially in one zoning district and partially in another zoning district, you can kind of pick which zoning district you want to be in. But I didn't see that in the Quincy bylaw, and I don't think that's something that is provided for under the Zoning Act. So in the absence of that, just reading the literal language of the Quincy bylaw, I think it's pretty clear that the Quincy bylaw really enforces their zoning districts the way that they are. Now, if we look at this particular map here, you can see that this line here was purposefully meant to cross over. And in a very intelligent move, which I don't know who did it, but maybe it's the planning department, or maybe it's something that is standard in Quincy, but you don't see it a lot in other cities and towns. The zoning districts that were drawn for your city actually track the middle of the street line, so that you have legal access to two different types of use from a street, because there's case law on point which says that you cannot access a more intense use via a lower intense use. Now, when they created this district here, specifically on this lot, the business C that runs along the center of Gilson Ave doesn't connect to the business C that comes this way. So this lot is specifically cut off from access from Gilson Road to the, from Gilson Road to the business C district. From Gilson Road on this site, you only can legally access the residential A part of the site for residential A use, because the destination use, it takes on the characteristic of what you're going through to get to that use. So you have a significant legal access problem from here. Now, that's something that you should probably have town council take a look at. And I know that's not part of site plan review, but that would significantly impact the design of this building, availability of parking, if indeed a legal issue based on Massachusetts general laws, not Quincy zoning ordinances, prevents access from Gilson Road to this property. And it just very well may. Then there's a question of whether or not a variance there, a use variance, for the residential A parcel land is even sufficient to get you to the multifamily use. Because without rezoning that district, it's not clear that that's the intent of the legislature in town to allow that sort of access. So for me, there are significant private and public issues with respect to access to this site, and what that means, which really make the design of this building questionable. So you could go ahead and approve a site plan tonight and go through your conditions and walk through this, but this isn't something that I made up. This is something that Gail identified. This is something that's been out there for 5 months after the November hearing that hasn't been addressed. There's no discussion of why the residential A district doesn't matter. There's just a simple discussion of, well, we require zoning relief. Okay. Well, one thing I'm not confused about is that zoning relief is a variance. And in Massachusetts, you get a hardship for a variance. And I'm fairly certain that you won't have a hardship here. And I'm fairly certain that you won't meet the standard that requires that a use not be substantially detrimental to the neighborhood, or that it not substantially derogate from the intent of the bylaw, because the relief that would be requested is indeed substantially derogating from the intent of the bylaw. You're essentially taking all of the dimensional requirements of the bylaw and the use requirement and saying, throw them out the window, give me a variance so I can put 24 units on a 14,000 foot lot. When your bylaw says you can put units on a 42,000 square foot lot, assuming that you have 2,500 square feet per unit, which would give you how many units? 16 on a 42,000 square foot lot, because that's 42,000 divided by 2,500. So in a lot of situations where you talk about variances, it's difficult to quantify the value of variance, okay? So if I have, typically your variance is going to be a situation where you have a sloped lot and I need to put my house in the front yard setback because I can't otherwise build a house on my lot and I lose my value of my investment. So, does that have a negative impact on anybody? What's really the value of that to you? It's hard to say. But in this situation, it's a little bit different because we're actually talking about land acquisition costs in square feet. So we know from the record and doing our research on this project that lot 18 was acquired. That's the dilapidated lot that everybody wants torn down, where the kids are doing heroin or whatever, and probably the basis for this big ask. That is still there, decaying, and probably will be. That was picked up for $2,600, so $260,000 from the man who actually bought it from the development company that subdivided this property in 1956. So he was probably pretty old. Then, about a year later, the developer went ahead and acquired this lot, 32 Gilson Ave, and they paid $620,000 for that lot. And they, almost immediately after they closed on it, and maybe at the end of the summer and the fall, came in before you guys to talk about this project. So it's a pretty speedy project, and it's concerning because if you break out the numbers, 14,000 square feet, $880,000 breaks out to about $62 per square foot. If they acquired the extra 28,000 square feet that they needed to meet the bylaws, that's $1.7 million of additional land that they would need to comply with the bylaws. So if they get a variance for that, that's like the city of Quincy giving them a check for $1.7 million. So you better really want this project if that's your opinion on variances. But we know that this is a successful business. It's got a tenant. This is a successful business. It's law offices. And this guy probably doesn't want to sell his house. So the question is, what would it even cost to acquire these properties? I can tell you right now, based on my client's cash flows, this is probably a $2.5 million property. That makes this probably a $1 million property. And that makes this, if they bought it at the standard rate, it's probably a $600,000, $700,000 property. But now that they've gone ahead and developed it, or proposed this, is probably more. So what you're really looking at, if you grant the variance for this project, the variances that are desired.
I'm sorry, excuse me, sir, this board does not issue variances.
No, I understand that, but my point is that to design this project in the layout with the setbacks and to approve a site plan, which is contingent upon zoning relief, is a futile exercise. And frankly, I don't know why they're wasting the board's time, because the variances are all going to be appealed by the neighbors. They're going to fall because there's no hardship. The property is going to be tied up in litigation, so it doesn't make any sense for your board to approve this design, because you know that it's sitting in the footprint of Johnson Avenue, and you know that that there's private rights in it which could prevent the development. You know that it's not financeable while those still exist, and you know that the variance is a proven issue. So I'm just trying to illustrate to you the distinction between what they are asking for and what's actually required for a multi-family property in the business C district based on the actual use requirements in the bylaw. So these 3 lots, that's 32,000 square feet. If they acquired these 3 lots, they would have enough property to do the deal. That's what your zoning bylaw wants. It wants more than 42,000 square feet to do this deal. This would probably be about an additional $5 million of land acquisition cost. Okay?
Those issues are up to the developer, okay? And by the way, and I think that's what Ms. Hoffman was talking about, zoning issues are determined and approved by the zoning office of the city of Quincy, Mr. Duker. Mr. Duker isn't here tonight, right? In terms of what needs a variance and what doesn't, that's Mr. Duker's responsibility.
I think it would be futile to approve a plan where you have a property that is clearly in the road layout in the footprint of Johnson Avenue. Okay, we've done the background research. We know that Johnson Avenue, by itself, zoning issues aside, we know that there's private issues here. If you see fit to approve this plan, they are going to be here before you again, talking about another plan. They will not get zoning relief because the abutters will appeal it, and they will appeal it again, and as it goes through denial after denial after denial, or if it makes it through Quincy, it's going to go to the appeals court, it's going to go to the SJC, and it's going to be denied again. And I think it's a very cavalier attitude for a developer to come before your board, even though I know, and having talked to the planning department, I know that you don't have a regulation that requires zoning approvals and legal, rights being resolved before your site plan approval. But it just doesn't make sense. Why are we talking about this? That's what's confusing to me. Why are we talking about this?
We have an application before this board that they have a responsibility to.
Sure. And I asked myself this question as I reviewed this project. Why would you go for site plan review before your zoning relief? Why would you design a project and spend money on architectural renderings before resolving roadway issues?
It's the applicant's decision.
It is. And the strategy is just so that you can get the Gale technical review. It's probably because this isn't really what you want. You don't expect to get this project. You're trying to take a swing for the fences, and you know now who's opposing you. And you know now what's going to happen, and you know that you're going to get sued by the abutters. You know that you're going to get in trouble with you know, your variances, and you're going to have to sit down and redesign the project. Because if you don't sit down and work with the abutters, everything that you've spent for this project here tonight, you might as well just flush it down the toilet and burn it. So rather than hemorrhaging money, going through appeals, tying up the property, design the project in accordance with the bylaws. Design something that works for the abutters. And design something that's not going to have a negative impact on my client's property, that's not going to have people coming in. And be responsive to the issues that have been raised by the town, including the zoning issues, including the safety issues and the other issues.
Thank you very much. I think that your zealous advocacy for your client is much appreciated. We love hearing from the public. You came in the stead of your client, and I think that your comments are duly noted. But we have a ton.
No, absolutely. In the interest of time, I will conclude my remarks, and I will encourage the board to consider the futility of approving anything here tonight, and encourage the board to suggest that the developer withdraw, to take the time to review the issues with respect to access from Gilson Road, with respect to their requests for this property, with respect to the impacts that they might have in the neighborhood, and to sit down with the abutters and to think this through so that you can actually have the best project that you can have without running through appeal after appeal after appeal, because the process associated with this particular project is very, very, very detailed, and there are a lot of hearings that can be appealed.
Thank you. Thank you. Somebody else wants to speak?
Yeah, can I use the drawings just to give reference to where I am?
Identify yourself.
Richard Fairhead, I live at, I'm here with my brother John, we live at 2830 Gilson Road, which is actually right on, if you've done at this one, Gilson Road. Our property is right on the corner of this lot here. So in order for me to access my home, I come down here, my driveway is right here. So obviously I'm going to be directly impacted as well. But when we had the last meeting in November, this was classed as, I think, a 5-story building. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And with the review of the new building, I see 6 stories. My concern is, in a neighborhood that's predominantly 2-family homes, this is definitely on a massive scale. For a 14,000 square foot lot, it's almost 50,000 square feet of a building. So I'm opposed to the budget.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody who wants to use this?
Anyone else? Sir.
My name is David Brophy, and I live at 11 Gilson Road. When I read the peer review, the traffic impact, I was kind of floored by the idea that they were thinking only 160 trips a day was a minimal impact. Just a couple pictures that I took. This is the entranceway to Gilson Road. That's my car. It's a Passat. It's not a big car, and it's a normal way to drive your car down the street. You cannot turn onto Gilson Road when there's a car coming off of Gilson Road. You just cannot. It's too narrow. You said 14 foot on the driveway to make it wider. Was a question that you had, I think, earlier.
Garage.
For the garage. That entranceway to our street is not 14 feet. It's maybe 10. Throughout the day, you have cars parked along the whole street with deliveries for the other apartment buildings, and those are at the entranceway to Gilson. And to say that it's going to be a minimal impact on this street is pretty bad. The street itself doesn't have any access for people to walk up and down, and you know, if it gets past all the appeals, you know, the street's going to need some serious reconstruction. The pipes on the street last year, when the Department of Public Works was doing work on the street, they said it was that the pipes were the original pipes from the late 1800s. And if you're going to be pumping in water that would be coming down. The pipe should be fixed on the street. And these are concerns, these are legitimate concerns about the neighborhood. I would love to see that house gone. Do not get me wrong, there are kids out there drinking again this afternoon. Kids out there doing whatever else they're doing. I would love to see this property gone. I'd love to see something nice in there. This is a big project. I live directly across the field. I'd be looking right at it. You have a school right there. It's something to consider with an all-girls school being right there, with construction throughout the day, throughout the school year, with people just being on their balconies during the day. That it's a lot more people coming onto the road, and so that's my concern. I like the idea of the project, but it needs to be scaled down. This is way too big a project for a dead-end street.
Two dead-end streets.
Two dead-end streets. And people already park in this parking lot, and I don't know when the traffic impact is done, but just that alone has 30 cars parked in it at least every day. That's 60. And when they started parking there, you notice the big difference when the health center opened up about the traffic flow on the street. And so those are my concerns.
Sorry, did you want to submit these to the record?
Yeah.
These photos?
Yeah,
I
definitely.
would ask, would you mind labeling where they are located? I'm afraid we'll get them and we won't realize which streets those are.
Yeah,
If you don't mind, just on the back.
And even the probably one as well.
Yeah, take that one.
You don't also going off of Gilson onto Greenleaf. There's no signage about parking, so people park right up on the curbs, and it's dangerous because people fly down Greenleaf. They think it's a thoroughfare. They think it's Bergen Parkway, and they use it as cut through from 3A to Hancock, and people are flying, and to take a right turn, I go so slowly, and I'm a crazy driver, and I am so cautious at that corner all the time because I know I'm going to get drilled on it one of these days, especially with the way big cars are parked. So those are my concerns. I'll label these for you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Brooker. Anyone else? Yes.
My son's grabbing at about 28 as well. There's a lot of little kids on the street, and it is a dead end. And they can't do much right now. There's cars go quite right, and there's a lot of cars go down, don't realize it's a dead end. They'll turn around and start speeding back up now. And there's a lot of cars, there's a lot of traffic going with the school next door and the health place. But to have this coming down the street, another 80 cars coming in a day and coming out. There's at the top of Gilson Road, on both sides, there already are 2 apartment buildings. And they're parking on the extra places that are down the street. There's nowhere for them to it's a tiny little road. And as Derek said, if someone's parked, there's only one, if you're going down, nobody else can come up right now. It's very, very narrow.
Can I make one more point in that? I mean, we're only like a 2-minute walk to the T station. Most people park on the street. They're gone all day. They park anywhere on the street, walk to the T and come back at 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening. I've called Margaret to have cars towed and moved. I've called the city to have cars and moved. And that's
there. I think that there was a neighborhood meeting. Was there a neighborhood meeting?
Yes, I'll get into that. Okay.
And what do the neighbors want to see?
Well, we want to see the 2 sites developed. You had a 2-family home and a 3-family home. So you had a combined 5 units. There was obviously one you could get. One unit was accessible by Gilson Road. The other unit was accessible from Johnson Ave. So they were separate, even though they're neighbours, they're separated by streets. We want to see something that's, more fitting. It's got to be scaled down a lot. It's a 14,000 square foot lot. In Braintree, it doesn't qualify for a single family home. So, not using that as a reference, but you have to have 15,000 square feet in Braintree to have a single family home. So, I just feel that it's on a massive scale.
Anybody else want to speak? Sir.
Michael Griffin. I live at 9 Linden Court. Reference as well. Again, I just want to voice my surprise at the minimal traffic impact. I can't see that at all. It's a very nice building, but once you start putting in the houses that are here, all along here, and this is a big parking lot. And where I live, Linden Court, it's coming down Gilson Road, dead end. I live down here at this dead end with my 3 kids. And as Sandra mentioned, cars come down not knowing about the dead ends, and they come down and they buzz around. It's a fairly narrow street, and another major concern is with the parking, is that they're going to start parking on Linden Court. There's no parking on this side.
There's no parking on both sides.
There's a few at the bottom for my tenant, but when cars do park there, I know you had a tenant that parked up here, and you just can't access it. Can't get out of these driveways. So I can see that happening when the cars come down looking for a spot to park, and this street gets aligned with cars, and that's a big concern. And again, you can see all the 2 families, and you're just dropping this in. It seemed to get bigger from the last time. It's just out of place. Again, it's a terrible spot now, and we all want to see something happen.
No, we do.
We have a great spot.
This particular size is just going to be detrimental to a nice little quiet neighborhood.
Yeah.
So we'd love to see something happen, but this is just too big for it. The impact would be too much for our kids and the traffic.
I saw your hand up first.
Yes, my name is Joe Cheyenne. I'm the owner of 15 Johnson Ave. I bought the house about 32 years ago, and I enjoy it because it was quiet, nice area. I lived there for a while, and I enjoy every minute of it because it's dead end street. The neighborhood is all nice and enjoyable. That's going to be taken away from me because that's going to be this big building to be next to me, whereas traffic is going to be tremendous because you have cars where it's going to be showing better in here. That's Johnson Ave. Okay, and that's the Firestone building. For the time being, we have a parking lot in here, which are about 14, 16 cars. They have a problem when they come in to get out. So do I have. So when we get to Hancock Street, or before we get to Hancock Street, on the side of the building of Firestone or Goodyear Tires, the car has to cross the sidewalk to look traffic if it's coming or going. So that's me pushing the people who walking on the sidewalk into the street, which is very, dangerous. That side of the car, you cannot get 2 cars in the same time. When you're talking about 160 people, 160 minimum cars going back and forth, where those cars can stop. Besides, I have a right because that's private street. I have a right for my tenant to park right on the street. If it's trash come in to pick up, or snow blower, or snow truck, or a fire department, or any of these, there's no way it can cross because the street is very small, and especially when you park on the street, because there's no other place that part of it. He has a right way to walk into their building, but the effect on it is too much, so it's overburdened the right way. They only have the right way to go, not traffic. This is made for one house next door, not for building to be back and forth. And with we're talking about 14 feet. Where they gonna get 14 feet if the street is small enough? If it's fire department, police department, or trash, or anybody who's gonna drive, you know, it's gonna be really small to cross into the parking garage. So how is it gonna be two ways? Where they gonna be stopped? If somebody come in and was on the wrong way, how is it gonna get it? There's no way it's gonna get it. There's no U-turn and there's no place to do that. Just means it's gonna be coming into either my property or to that parking lot, which we don't know in the future what will be. And my property, beside the point too, is my property is gonna be disvaluated because I'm being surrounded by, you know, everywhere. I am in the middle of nothing. Okay, I've been in 32 years. And to come in all of a sudden, because he knows when they bought the property from the other, because if it's, I know they pay money for it, I would be more than happy to buy his share of that house next door. And I will turn it down and make it, you know, parking for my tenant. So make it easy for him to not be in burden because he spent that and the house is you know, I demolish it and we make it nice. So I'd be willing to work with him as much as possible. But that's project, it's over built for an area like that. And I don't know why we are you know, we are in a rush. The Quincy, city of Quincy is growing rapidly. It's growing, you know, very much. So, you know, do not go with this one. Many others are going to come in and have the whole area and build something very nice to fit with the city of Quincy. You know, we should not rush into the, you know, decision fast to make it right away for you know, it's going to harm everybody. I don't talk to anybody. I mean, not, this is in danger for people, danger for everybody.
Thank you. Sir. Yeah. I just live at the end there.
Identify yourself, please.
Sorry?
Identify yourself.
John Gavin. I live just, you know, on that lot there, just on the corner. And not to sound so repetitive now, but like there's 2 or 3 things, like, you know, the 50,000 square foot on the 14,000 lot. I mean, that's a joke, to be honest. The main thing, like, that's one about the parking, but Gilson Road is like a tiny, tiny street. And as this is what I said here, you couldn't turn a motorbike on there if there's a car coming towards it. You really could. I don't mind saying a fire brigade or a dump truck or rubbish bins or whatever. But what kind of baffles me most is how can they even propose parking on Johnson Ave when it's not even like it's not even like it's somebody else's property. Well, like would you not think they'd approach him first and say, look, you know, if it does go through, is it possible that we can work out something to come down Johnson Ave? Sure, how can they propose a set of plans like that without knowing it's not even possible? You know what I mean? Not to sound anything, no, but I mean that's a huge issue. So like, you know, you can talk about this all you want, and if the guy wants, you know, as that gentleman said there, if he doesn't want it to happen, sure, like it's his land. How it is, like, how can they propose it if they don't even know it's possible to happen? You know what I mean? Unless they could figure something out that says, I don't know. But like, it's just beyond me how they can spend all this time and money and, you know, instead of going before the zone board and getting this and that, you would think that would be one of the main concerns to see if it's possible. I don't know how many parking spaces are off at Johnson Ave, but how can you propose 17? How can you propose 17 parking spots if you haven't even access to it? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Without being moved or anything like that, but you know, it's a tiny little street, and you know, it's already hard to get parking there. And I don't know, 160 vehicles a day, like dump trucks and all that. It just sounds ridiculous, to be honest.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak? Sure, Mr. Kennedy.
My name is Arthur Cannabis, and I'm an opponent, bring a large area.
bring the largest they could get their hands on. I can understand better why they didn't, or maybe they conveniently forgot. So I had my attorney make up a small area. On it, he actually put parking spaces that parking is allowed outside of the site. All of the concerns for all of the townspeople who are abutters are well taken. If you take a look at that print and see where parking is allowed and not allowed, and then I urge every single board member to get in your car sometime before the next hearing. Go to Johnson Road.
Johnson Ave.
Johnson Ave. Johnson Road, Johnson Ave. I stand corrected. Go to Johnson, whatever. Get in your car, drive down. Go to the so-called end of the street. It's really not the end of the street. As my attorney eloquently put forth, that the end of the street is really not the end of the street, as it's shown in front of you. We had all kinds of pictures. I don't want to take the board's time. But I urge all of you to go down that street and picture a 5 or 6 story, might as well say it's a 100-story building with underground parking for the next 30 stories up. Whatever it is, that street is not equipped to handle the amount of traffic that's going to be generated. The access from Gilson Road will further exacerbate the problem. It won't help the problem by trying to dump out over there. You've almost got the same situation. Those streets, I should say Johnson Road, Ave, as the case may be, was only designed for three particular lots. Whether they're A, B, C, or 1, 2, and 3, that's what it was designed for, to handle those particular lots. At a time, I might add, in the 50s, where you didn't have downtown Quincy the way you have it today, nor do you have the traffic that is generated in that particular area. So it's somewhat like downtown Boston, in a way. The streets just weren't designed that way. Sure, there's all kinds of things you can do. But in this particular case, when you go down Johnson, come back out. Stop at that light. There's a light there. Now, before you get to the street, you have to be able to look to the left, and you have to take a look to the right. You can't look to the left because my building's in the way. You have to physically go out into the sidewalk in order to get a view. And I dare say, if you stop before the end of my building and you get a green light and you can't see what's going on the left, if you got a mother with 2 children, a baby carriage, you're looking for problems, people. Because you can't see out to the left. You'll step on the gas, and if you've got 3 or 4 cars behind you trying to get out of that site to make the light to go wherever they're going to go, the fire department and the police department are going to have a field day. And unfortunately, somebody's going to get hurt. Now, I didn't put the building up, Sullivan Tire. That was my predecessor. It's his building. I don't own the building. I'm a manager member. So I have 3 grandchildren that I take care of, and 2 children. None of them know a heck of a lot about real estate, but they know they get sued an awful lot because there are problems with real estate. The last thing I need is to have this approval go forth on that building and have somebody enjoin me in a lawsuit because maybe I was a proponent of it, maybe I didn't voice my opinion long enough or hard enough or loud enough. That's what's going to happen. You can't put that building on that site without encompassing and creating more problems for the town. And I dare say, I've been a developer for many years. When I go before a board, I try to put my best foot forward, not only for my particular pocket, because everybody goes for this. There isn't anybody on the board who doesn't work for this. We all work for it. But when you use the town to enrich your pocket, unnecessarily so, by trying to cram down a development such as this on that particular site, it's criminal. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, anyone else want to speak? Seeing that, Council.
Okay, I have a long list here, so for the record, Margaret LaForest, the Ward 1 City Councilor. Just by raising hands, 'cause I know there's other people in the room for this project that haven't spoken. Can you just raise your hand if this is the project you're here for? I just didn't know if there was anyone. That has, or spoken, not spoken. I guess I just want to make sure if there's anybody in the back kind of here that I need to be connected with. So this started out with a neighborhood meeting, and I'll tell you from the get-go, it was a premature neighborhood meeting. The projects weren't really designed, I think, to the point of we have the neighbors back and I got to really vet in and go through this. And as you see, there's been a lot of changes made with this board and the time frame from us starting the neighborhood meeting last fall to where we are today. So one, I think first off, the blighted property, right? We're all looking forward to seeing redevelopment at this property. This is, when the Murphy brothers ever called me, their attorney said, can you look at this site? I was shocked. I mean, blight is kind of one of my pet peeves, and this is the worst I've ever seen. I don't know if you've all had a chance to get up and drive the site, but I think that's really critical in this situation. So one of the immediate things we talked about was the density. And is this project too dense for this? It wasn't parking compliant when we first started. One of our biggest concerns is parking compliance. Okay, they come back to parking compliance, but now they've added a story. So that didn't address our density concerns. So that was something right away. Trans-oriented development, I think from meeting with a lot of the neighbors, and there's a lot of other permitted projects going on with this, we are seeing trans-oriented development projects. One of my constituents reached out to me, and Cole, I appreciate you asking the question. You're all talking about transit-oriented development, where's the bike storage? Because that's one of the reasons you're able to reduce your parking. So that was great to have it, and they do have good deficits in storage in their parking. So I was glad to see there's some positive response to that. Quincy Fire, I know the Deputy Chief Joe Jackson was here. I think he's since left. He was actually on the roads doing the tour that I was doing today. And I spent some different times going in and out of the site because I think it's very important. So if you haven't driven Gilson Road and Johnson Ave in and out, I need you all to do that before you vote this project. It's really critical to understand how this project is planned in comparison with access to both of those roads. So I was actually surprised today that there was so few cars parked on Gilson Road because that was not typical to the experience I've had. So one, I think if the board or Mr. Fauci's being here could take away what we've heard from the neighbors tonight, we've heard at the neighborhood meeting, I've had conversations with the neighbors, parking enforcement. The other thing I'd like, regular parking enforcement, because if they're going to the T, they shouldn't be there all day in this residential street. But the other thing it sounds like immediate need is a no outlet sign. Why are people bothering trying to turn down there and turn around? So we can get a no outlet sign. That's an easy ask. Well, there is a no outlet.
There is, but they still don't see it. There's a private school on the opposite side. The school is on both sides.
Right.
And there's a pedestrian crossing there. But they need to have a mentor to actually help these kids cross the street because it's too dangerous.
On Green.
On Green itself. To just cross over.
So I think what the parking traffic infrastructure could use some oversight and some upgrades. So I think that regardless of this project, it sounds that we've been hearing very consistent. Those are the concerns we've been hearing. We've mentioned them to the board before. So, okay, I don't remember there being a no outlet sign, but I thought, geez, why would there be? So, all right, maybe that was too simple. But let's look at what the signage is there. Let's look at what the existing ordinances are so we can get that brought back to them and make sure that it's enforced. There's a reason that street's so narrow. You can't have cars parking on both sides. Okay. I'm so glad Quincy Fire came in. Their letter of concerns, I think, just so that you're all aware, every one of these project documents is posted on my website. I really feel it's important to have good access to the information that you're seeing so that neighbors can understand that project. So I appreciate the planning department providing those so we can get those out to the public realm so they're not visiting Cottington Street to access documents. I think that's quite antiquated. Let's see. On the utilities, property management, trash, and snow. Oh, actually, let's go to parking. The Residence A and the zoning, so that's one of our big things. I'm really glad, and I wish you had reached out to me in advance of the city council, and I'll give you my contact information because I'd love to follow up with you. When this was initially pitched to us, I believe the Residence A section of the property was to be utilized for parking, and that all of the housing was on Business C. Is that correct by these plans? Can someone answer that? No. But that was how we were originally led. That was how it was originally introduced to us, a little bit different of a project back further, right? Was the parking, because so that's just to touch your question as to what I believed at that point, was that the Residence A because I'm a Residence A staunch advocate. This is a non-conforming use. This is a multifamily housing, even though it's owned Residence A, so it's a little bit different. but I was under the impression that the parking portion, the exterior parking portion was the Residence A section of the site. Is that correct, yes or no?
We never saw a plan that showed it that way.
Okay, that's how it was described to me. I'll tell you
Showed
that
to
it
you,
was
yeah.
the Residence A portion of the site would be utilized. We know we can't build multifamily housing. It does have a pre-existing non-conforming use. The Residence A section is going to be parking. So that was something I was looking for. Anyone from the project team want to address that? Whether the section of the site with the exterior parking is the Res A, and that whether the building footprint is within the Res A or not?
The building footprint is within the residential.
By original design, was it?
The footprint hasn't changed since the first design.
Okay. Okay. Well, I will say that when it was introduced to me, it was pitched that the exterior parking was the Residence A section of the lot. That was what I remember from the neighborhood very distinctly. Was why would we be talking about this in a Res A? And the reason was the exterior parking and the access was going to be Res A. So that's news to me tonight. This board votes a legal opinion from Jim Timmons and our city solicitor relative to these legal issues about the road, because that was raised in the peer review. And I think that this is the reason why we have peer review, right? Is that we're able to look at this from an independent perspective and to understand these concerns that they're unresolved. So to me, there's a reason it's in the peer review, and what's the response? Not unaddressed, I think, isn't a fair response to the neighbors, particularly now that we're hearing in a butter property owner. Yeah, so I'd like to have that resolved from the legal opinion. Let's see. So that legal opinion is going to be the specific of the actual building constructs over Johnson Ave, right? The footprint of the building is on top of Johnson Ave. Is that correct? The footprint of the building is Johnson Ave within the footprint of the building.
Yes, it is.
So that, I feel, is a matter to be resolved on property access. Okay. So even rights. Okay. On the traffic review, and I think Dave referenced it to 160, whether it's de minimis, I just want to clarify for you. They were talking about new vehicle trips because of the project. So what they is 160 not qualifying the whole street?
No, that's 160 is new resident trips, and I think that to say that that's a minimal impact when you only have about 160 to begin with, when you're doubling something, that's not minimal.
Okay, I agree with you. I agree with you that it's not de minimis, but I thought that you were thinking that they were using that number as the total. So in your comments, that was how I understood it. Okay.
No, that's new.
So I agree that because you also have, when you're talking about traffic, they've had the benefit. Well, I can't even say this. The blighted property's been vacant. It's been vacant. It's been occupied with vagrants and criminals and illicit activity, but we're not seeing vehicle trips from that on the Johnson Ave portion. And I believe the other site has been maybe vacant as well, right?
Yeah.
Gilson Road's completely vacant. It's just not well cared. I mean, this would be down the end of this. So I just want to be clear on the traffic. What they were saying is you have 17 parking spots, and this is what's going to generate on Gilson Road. So I do understand that while we're saying it's existing, pre-existing non-conforming with 4 units, how many vehicle trips, and they are, that property does have the right to optimize its zoning or keep its current. It has the right for its current zoning use to continue. Okay. I had some questions about on the Johnson Ave side. It was commented there's a multifamily unit there, and I believe, Mr. Shaheen, that's yours. Does that property have parking associated with it, or do you do on-street parking?
The driveway for 2 cars, the rest apartments.
You have, and how many units is that property?
4.
Okay. And then there's the Bay State Community Services property as well with their parking lot. So they have their staff lot, which is the large lot, which is the Gilson Road access, and then their families. So they do a lot of youth counseling. So the families come in and it's direct building access, and so it's heavily utilized. They do have buses as well as transporting. So there's definitely some vehicle, traffic concerns just on the logistics side for me. The other concern would be during construction. Is it going to be contained within the site? What would be the game plan so that you're not impacting these abutting sites? So what was going to be the site containment and construction equipment, because I think that's an important concern, whether it's this project or any project, what the plan was for that. So I'm not sure who could address that.
We don't have a construction management plan yet for, and/or possible staging. So we do not have.
So for example, a staging area, you would then need to determine a staging area,
Yes.
and it would potentially be off-site, because this site does not
Yes.
allow for staging.
Yes.
Okay.
There could be some staging short-term on the site, but eventually it all has to be off-site.
Councilor,
Yes.
we work with the traffic engineer, Deb Finnegan, and she has to have a traffic management plan submitted to her about 3 months or 3 weeks before the project gets started, that she has to approve. She looks at all of those issues, especially traffic, construction vehicles in and out, times of day they're allowed to go in and out, where the staging is, you know, how it's going to impact all the traffic.
So I think for me, is whether it's this project or whatever project, that this be communicated to the neighbors. I think that one, you know, we've learned a lot of lessons, like for example, you know, getting timelines on projects and the variables that have changed there. I think it's really important because of this particular site, and it's really on top of a neighborhood, that there is communication to look at the timeline and what to expect. So it doesn't sound like this project is near that yet. The trash access. We talked about a dumpster on Gilson and a dumpster on Johnson, as well as individual recycle bins. So one, I want to say, as a multi-unit rental property, kudos on actually offering recycling to your tenants, because that's not something we see in this community, and I hear from rentals all the time that that's an interest that they have. Why would you have individual recycle units versus a larger dumpster? I'm just a bit confused on the logistics of that.
Well, the recycling would be bi-monthly pickup. And it would just be like a city dumpster, city garbage truck picking up the bins and dumping them in. It could be a dumpster.
Yeah, I mean, I just felt, I know for myself as a resident, I put out a lot more recycling than I do as trash.
Yes.
So I just thought that was a bizarre concept, and I couldn't wrap my head around why that would be the plan. And these dumpsters rolling, I know that that's another complaint I often hear, is that everybody else in the neighborhood has a trash truck and there's a time, and versus we get, we do have rules for our noise ordinance about when this dumpster pickup could be. So you'd need to have the dumpster pickup truck come in on Johnson, the dumpster pickup truck come in on Gilson, each for a pickup. And how frequently would that be?
Well, the trash would be once a week. The recycling would be twice a week.
Okay, so one, can we, you know, I don't know at this point, I think that why, I don't understand why you wouldn't do weekly. So I would at minimum request the applicant both weekly. That doesn't, so very minor of the detail, but to me, I don't want, you know, to be dealing with rodent control issues after. So if we could change that. The other thing is, walk me through how you're gonna get this dumpster in and out on wheels. Is it something that the 14-foot opening, does the trash truck drive in through the garage and roll this out? Is it something they manually roll out? Walk me through the logistics on that.
No, they would manually roll it out. It's a 2 cubic yard dumpster on wheels. It's approximately 38 inches deep by 78 inches long, 40 inches high. And they would roll it out outside the garage where the dumpster traffic.
Yep.
My entrance to my house, as you know, is right next to where their entrance will be. So can I access my house when they decide they want to do all this in the trash? What if I have to leave? You know, because my front door and my driveway will be right next to your front door on Gilson Road. So if you're doing all these things at your front door, I have no access to my front door. Gilson Road is not like that. And there's a fire hydrant in the garden on the sidewalk, so I can't even walk on the grass to get into my house if they're going to do this outside the house.
Trying to have a comment.
I said, from the plan, what I understand, the new building will be 35 feet from her lot line. The old building right now is on top of it. Right now, it's 35 feet away the door.
When it removed, I know exactly.
So where's the trash truck that's emptying the dumpster? Where's that going to be parked while all this process of rolling in, rolling out? Walk us through that.
I just want to identify, where is your driveway here now?
My driveway is here.
Oh,
No.
Is that the picture
Right here.
below this,
Yeah, right.
see the holes there.
Just to the left of the hydrant is looking at your house, right? Yeah, so it's right.
I actually have a board showing street views that correspond to the property renderings. That's something that people would like to see.
One speaker at a time, please, okay?
And actually, I think, Councilor Forrest, actually finish up.
Okay, I'm like, that's what this concern, because I just want to understand the logistics, like, that's the neighborhood impact that I'm here to advocate for, you know, that's, okay, construction we can understand has a start and an end. This is something that's going to happen every week, right?
This is the entrance to their, same, exact same spot where I park my car. I need to do exact, this is what I need to go here and then go there. You know, so every time they need to do something with that, it's part of my driveway. And I have an hour way to get out of the house, because that's my front door and my parking is exactly where I am. This is me. This is my driveway. This is the house they're going to get rid of. This is the road. This is the road. So they propose to have the driveway,
It has to stop there, can't go any further.
can't go any further because it's going to be dead end. So I go up down the street and park here. I'm right here will be their entrance.
Okay,
And
can we just let the council finish?
Okay, so one, let's leave that as the unresolved column, right? Like, we're not happy with the proposal as is. On the parking, one of my biggest concerns is, okay, you're parking compliant with 1.5 per. You could kind of get to 1.7. You get 4 spots that compact cars only. So 1.7 is a bit of a struggle. I get that you're there, but I just want to be realistic with what we're talking about. On the parking, one of my biggest concerns was we permit this, it's transit-oriented development, we give parking relief. This is parking compliant, great. It was a big aspect of this neighborhood. But then we find, oh, but parking's an extra fee. So what's the game plan? You had talked about spot assignment per unit, and obviously 1.5 per, so first in's kind of if I need 2 spots, they're all 2-bedroom units. What's the game plan to manage the parking? And then, is your intention to charge a fee? And that would be my next
Well, these are
question.
rentals. I don't know again, I'm not the developer, but I'm going to assume that these are rentals, and each rental unit will be assigned a parking space, 1 or 2.
I would assume that too, except I've been through too many permitting and seen the results of the Hamilton House on Hancock Street that way predates us all, that they're all too cheap to pay for parking and they infiltrate this neighborhood. So the reality is I wanted an answer to that question.
The applicant has represented to me that there'll be specific parking spaces specified to specific.
At no additional cost.
Correct.
Okay, I'd like that, if that's something that this project goes forward, conditioned to this project. Is that something that is a fair condition to the project? When we're saying these assigned seats, it's not an additional fee. I mean, we're really finding a problem. Whenever I was found 1018 Marymount Road, now they're charging a fee for parking. Right, that is what the intention was for the neighborhood when we asked for the level of parking that you got relief. So that's a big frustration for us. With that, I feel like that's above the bed. Density, too big for the area. A lot of logistic concerns unanswered. And development, this neighborhood supports improvement to the area. The development has to support the area and be reflective. I really think it's important to understand this particular site. I guess my last question is, because one of the things to me is, well, I might have a better appetite if Mr. Shaheen's property was included, right? So we had larger footprint for the size. Has there been discussion about alternative options and other buys? Has there been a discussion? Because I was under the impression there was outreach in addition for additional properties. So I'm curious. With the abutters?
No.
No, not to your abutters?
No, and I never.
Okay. Attorney, has there been any discussion about purchasing additional landscape for such a dense project?
I'm Dave Murphy. I hate to piss anyone off, and you know that.
Yeah, come forward so they can.
So, you know, let me just say this before Dave and Peter, the brothers, are here. What I want to talk to you about is, they're both Quincy guys, and they're both Quincy small business owners. So I just want to let you understand that a lot of times you're dealing with development firms. This is the men who are the applicants are the developers team, so, and they're local. So just wanted to, they've always been very responsive, and I think part of, with me, is the situation that they bought this lighted property and I've asked, can you tear it down immediately? But because of the bank deal, it has not been able to. But I want to say that you've been great to work with on this, so I just, if you want to go address that question, I just.
Just help anybody, I mean, I have no problem with, I go over there with the kids, I'll go there twice a day, I see you pull up today, you always see me in there. I mean, you know, just to cup up, because I want to keep my word on that they won't be in there breaking in and doing us, because I did kick out, they're shooting out, and you know that. And since I took over, it has very little problem. I know Dave called me once, and I told him, what didn't I, Dave? I showed up, I mean, you have my phone number, I mean, it's not like I'm running from this.
Oh, no.
But I did before I bought the house there, it was 260,000. I bought the broken down house.
Yeah.
I called Joe,
Yeah.
right next door, and we had a discussion, we were right now for 3 hours. And I said to him, I would be interested to buy his property. And I gave him a very good offer for it. And he turned me down, and he wanted $1.2 million. And it's not worth $1.2 million. And I don't have that kind of money. I mean, I said to Joe, and I take a lie detector, I said, if yours worth 1.2,
yeah,
and I would go on my way.
Yeah.
But he said he's too old, he ain't gonna get that. Then I went ahead and I met Backhouse between us, and I made a deal with them. Now I own the right of way on them too, from Johnson. You know what I mean? And he has the right of way, but now he can't do nothing on the road because this is his, but I can go through it now. If I bought it, I could use that part of it. Now his 7,000 square foot lot is down to 4. I mean, that's why he's here on that, saying it's going to be upsetting his vote. And I know the gentleman here from Southern Tire, the last meeting, you said you were okay with everything. The only thing that bothered you is not enough parking. And that's why we added more parking. Right? And the reason why we did 2 parking was we were going to put floor 1 and 2 for your back view. Because I don't want to give any trouble with Dave or nothing like that. Being honest, I might even think about moving in myself. But that's another thing we'll get to, but I don't make any promises because, you know, that's not my aim. But I was going to put the first floor and the second floor for 2 units, the 2 floors, and then the other side for 3 and 4 for the parking. Just split them up, not have 24 cars downstairs. And, you know what I mean? That's what my plan was, to help the traffic. I did go around and I spent a lot of time down there, and I know where you're talking about the parking and the sidewalk in front of the gate and stuff, and I have a picture of your driveway, and I can see why people park down, because I think it's the school. You know, I have pictures, and I don't need to get up and show all the pictures or anything, but the parking is right. I watch them come, and they do park on the sidewalk, and they do go up to the T. I mean, it's not like a lie, but it's something, I think my fault there about where they park, you know what I mean? If I could stop and park there, I would.
Well, we've been trying for 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying about coming down the street there, when people park and stuff. You shouldn't even know parking on that side anyways. I mean, I understand that. And with the problem with the trash here, I do have 65 feet, or 70-something feet of the width the truck can go down there. But it's like, I can't promise the world to you, but I'll do the best to make everyone happy. You know, like I say, myself and my brother's not here to fight this. I just want to clean that up. But everything comes down to, I admit, I'll be totally honest with you, everything does come down to dollars, stuff, and my investments and stuff like that. It's not like I'm going to make a shitload of money on it. It's a long-term kind of investment, right? And I'll be honest with you. And like I say, we'll be building it and we will be taking care of it. I mean, we're not having outsides. Yeah, I understand.
Appreciate the comments.
So on the 35, with the 35 feet,
Get back to the council.
35 feet, it would make a big difference.
Mr. Murphy.
In the house.
Okay, so I think for me, I just wanted the board to see there was offers out there, right? So I think part of us was,
But
this
that's
is
not
too
correct
dead.
on the 1.2.
Okay. Cannot hear
Okay, we don't need the details, other than there was discussion, there was outreach, and I know there's been multiple outreach in multiple different directions up in this area. So I just wanted, for the record, that there's some other things going on here as well that I've been trying to catch a wind of. So I think you've heard a lot of testimony today. We've gotten really good input from the neighbors. I think it's really important that the neighbors came, and I really appreciate all of your time in coming here and communicating with me, because what's important is you need to have a good process so you get a good project outcome for a neighborhood. So please take all of our testimony into your consideration this evening.
Thank you, Council.
Board members, maybe one last comment.
Go ahead.
Speaking with Chris Carroll, the attorney, I believe the attorney was using the older zoning code. In the Business C district, multifamily is an allowed use, not a conditional use. That was one inaccuracy. The other one is minimum amount of land per dwelling unit. He stated 2,500, which gave us 6 units. That's again incorrect. It's 500 square feet per unit divided by the lot size would give us 28 units. So I just wanted to make that point.
I appreciate that. We did, just for clarification on that, so that was something that the city contracted to recodify our zoning in 2010, I believe. So that was, I think, the big part is understanding the zoning, but that still doesn't give them the right to use the Residence A portion of the lot for building, right? So the Residence A, if that was put in parking, could be incorporated into this. But this is a really big change to the zoning with building footprint being in Res A, and that was not what was presented to the neighborhood. But I appreciate you clarifying that because 500 square feet was the Business C. I'm here a lot.
Can I just make a comment?
Go ahead, board member.
Thank you, Councilor LaForest. Thank you to everybody that came out tonight, because the most important part for me is getting input from the neighborhood. And sometimes we get a little, sometimes we get a lot, but tonight was especially thoughtful and very helpful. A number of times it came up, board members, make sure you go and walk the site. I have. And just a couple of days ago, I did, and what I thought to myself was, this project is way too big for the site. And while I certainly appreciate the developers looking to redevelop this property, and it sounds like you guys are all in favor of that. And that's good, because I'm in favor of that. But personally, and I only speak for myself, I don't speak for the board at this time, if I were asked to vote on this project now, I will vote no. And so what I would encourage the applicant to do is to work with the counselor, to work with the neighborhood, and come back to this board with something different. But I also encourage the neighborhood to think about what you want, and have some sort of cohesive ask and find the middle ground. And so again, I don't speak for the board, but I want the board members to know where I am, and I don't know if they have thoughts right now. Perhaps we could avoid any recommendation from the department at this point, depending on whether they agree with me or not. And if they don't, that's fine with what.
Mr. Carroll.
Thank you for your comments, and as you can see, the Murphys really believe in this project, and they really want to work with the neighbors. So I know it's been dragged out for a long time, but at this time we request possibly a continuance so that we could work for the best interest of the neighbors and work in what they have to say. I thank everybody for their time tonight. I thank the board. I've sat on boards. I know the time spent, but I think there's a lot of positive comments that can be put together, and we can work together and clean up a problem in the neighborhood and bring something that'll be a credit to your board and a positive for the neighborhood. And that's the Murphys' concerns. They want to do the right things, and they want to be there for the long term.
As part of that continuance, Councilor Forrest has request for a legal opinion. That would give us the opportunity to ask the department. So is there a motion to continue this?
So moved.
To a date certain? June 8th?
June 8th.
So, can I ask if so everybody here is here and June 8th is a date. If that date is not to be, can I just ask, or if we're going to confirm that date, can I ask for a minimum of 10 days or 2 weeks notice? I'd like to be able to notify the abutters. And the change that happens to me with this has been a bit of frustration with just, and it's by design, and it's that the applicant, okay, peer review's coming in at midnight hour, we're meeting the deadline. But for me, it's about notifying the neighbors and keeping it informed and keeping it all on our calendars. And then if it's, oh, I get if midnight hour to cancel, there's anything we can do about it. But if this is going to go 2 weeks out, I need to know it's on the go so that we're not planning it, and then we're going to go into July. I just need more time than the 48-hour public notification.
How about if I personally contact you May 25th?
Right. And we'll know it's a go, not a go.
Either way, we'll
Is that
go that
fair?
way.
So let's everybody here, June 8th, put that on your calendar. You're all on my email list. If you're not on my email list, please give me your contact information.
There's still a motion on the table, Council.
Sorry.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor? Aye. So the hearing has been continued to June 8th.